Today's program is brought to us by Jennifer Benarott. Jennifer joined Rotary in 2004 and was sponsored by Seal Smith. Her classification is communications. Jennifer and her husband Matt live in Iowa with their sons Jack, who is 13, and Evan, who is 10, and she commutes from Iowa every day to the City Hall. Well, she actually lives in Cannon Falls, but if you've ever driven to Cannon Falls, it feels like it's Iowa. Jennifer is a doer and does an incredible amount of work for Rotary over the years. She has chaired our fundraiser a number of times and is a valuable resource in so many ways to so many of us. She currently serves as our president-elect and will become our president on July 1st, and she'll be a great president for our club. I spoke to her earlier this week to find out what book she was currently reading and what was on her nightstand. But it turns out she's actually writing a book. It's called How to Pick Up the Pieces in Your Rotary Club When You Follow a President Who's a Bumbling Idiot.
Good afternoon. As you know, residents of Edina live in one of the safest communities in Minnesota. That does not happen by accident. Though both were named chief earlier this year, the leaders of the police and fire rescue and inspections departments have decades of experience in public safety. Dave Nelson started his law enforcement career with the Anoka County Sheriff's Department. In February of 1991, he started with the Edina Police Department as a police officer. He worked from 1991 until September 1999 as a patrol officer, investigator, and school liaison officer. In September of 1999, he was promoted to sergeant. In 2005, he was promoted to lieutenant, and in February of 2010, he was named deputy police chief, serving under former member Jeff Long. His promotion to chief of police was in January of this year. Tom Schmitz began his career in public safety when he enlisted in the U.S. Air Force in 1982 and served as a medic until 1986. After his discharge, he worked for North Memorial Medical Center as a paramedic. In 1993, he began to serve the citizens of Edina as a paramedic firefighter. He was promoted to battalion chief in charge of training and special operations in 1999. In 2011, he made a questionable choice and left the city of Edina. He left to serve the city of Eden Prairie as the assistant fire chief in charge of training and fire inspections. He was very excited for the opportunity to return to Edina in February of this year to serve us again, this time in the position of fire chief. He is looking forward to being part of our leadership team that helps shape the city and his department. The chiefs are going to take turns speaking today. Police Chief Dave Nelson kicks off the program. Please join me in welcoming him to the podium.
All right, well, good afternoon, and thank you for having me out again, or not again, I guess, as a speaker today. I was out here in February as a guest. Kaylin invited me to come out for one meeting, and so I met several of you that day, and it's really nice to be back again. So, as the Edina Police Chief, I gotta figure out how to work this. There we go. I'm gonna pull up my bio page again just for a little bit here. As far as starting in 91 as an officer, I was a dog shift officer where I was always working at night. So I never saw the light of day. But in 1994, when I got the opportunity to pilot our first school resource officer program, that was a real huge learning experience. Just working days, working in the schools, working with the school staff, and working with the students and parents. I started to realize that there's a lot of good things that our kids bring to our community. Working dog shift, whenever you saw a kid out after dark, they were always doing something wrong. But it was really an enlightening experience for me in my career to really learn that different side of law enforcement. So after that, I moved up to detective and did that for a few years, where I investigated fraud and forgery crimes. Then I had an opportunity to get promoted to sergeant. I worked in investigations for a few years, and then out back on patrol for a few years. As a lieutenant, I oversaw the investigative division for a while, then oversaw the patrol division for a while. And as deputy chief, then I would oversee the day-to-day operations of the whole department between patrol, investigations, dispatch, civilian services. It really gave me a well-rounded knowledge of the entire department. So to make the step to chief of police, as far as knowing what's going on in the department and community, I was very well versed on that. A lot of the public speaking events are a little bit newer for me. So you may have to bear with me on that. So going over our department a little bit, the department consists of 50 sworn officers and 29 civilian personnel. We have our own 911 dispatch center, and besides dispatching for the Edina Police and Fire, they also dispatch for the cities of Golden Valley Police and Fire and Richfield Police and Fire. Golden Valley is going to be leaving us at the end of the year and going on with Hennepin County as they built their new facility. So then we'll just be dispatching for Edina and Richfield. But that's enough to keep us busy. So our patrol division is made up of 30 officers and sergeants who are all EMTs or emergency medical technicians. That's one thing that gets us working better with the fire department and the paramedics is that being EMT certified, we can help out a little bit more on the medicals. And in Edina, we have a lot of medical calls with our population. So we also have 2 canine officers, Diesel and Blade. Diesel's been around for about 8 years now. He's going to be retiring at the end of the year, so we'll be getting a new canine in the spring. We also have a SWAT team, and we house a piece of equipment called a Bearcat, which is an armored vehicle that we were able to obtain through a grant several years ago. But besides serving Edina, we also will loan it out to other agencies who call for and request assistance with it. So it gets called out probably once or twice a month to other agencies who need to borrow it from us. We have our own crisis intervention team, and we have our own commercial crime unit. Our commercial crime unit is made up of plainclothes officers who primarily work the business districts, and Southdale is probably their main area that they office. So they work out there and try to investigate a lot of the commercial crime stuff going on, identity theft, fraud, and forgery, and be more proactive instead of reactive. So they make a lot of arrests out there, and it's a good program that we have running. In our investigative division, it's made up of 4 detectives, 2 school resource officers, and we have 2 task force officers. The task force officers, one of them works for the Minnesota Financial Crimes Task Force, and that task force focuses a lot on large-scale investigations of identity theft, going across the state, across the nation, and sometimes international. Excellent program that we're involved with, and we've been involved with them for about 10 years now. Our other task force officer serves on the Southwest Drug Task Force, which is housed in Eden Prairie, and they work with officers from other agencies on all the drug crimes. Drug crimes that occur in Edina don't necessarily stay in Edina, and they also go out to other cities. So by having a task force of multiple agencies, it really helps out in being able to work the investigations better. Our civilian division is made up of 6 administrative support and 1 crime analyst. Our community health department is 3 full-time employees who address community health issues throughout our community and partner with Bloomington and Richfield health departments. That's about it on that one. Sorry. When we look at our crime rates, we say Edina is a safe place to live. And normally when we're being compared to other agencies, we like to be like up on top, number 1 or number 2. When it comes to crime rates, no, we don't want that. As you can see, Edina is in Hennepin County of the 28 reporting agencies. We're 4th from the bottom. The only cities lower than us are Orono, Minnetrista, and Dayton. I think that's very impressive. We've been holding that spot for several years. Each year when the new statistics come out, that's where we're going to be, is right towards the bottom. So that's our safe community. One of the things that I look at what makes us a safe community is focusing on traffic safety. I think we have a good reputation of being an aggressive department that works traffic. I think you'll hear on the news, don't speed in Edina, and that we always have our fundraisers set up in different areas of the cities. And as you can see, sometimes people try to thwart our efforts there by warning motorists that we're running a speed trap ahead. So, but traffic enforcement, why I like it, why the department likes it, and it's good for the city, is it's high visibility. Officers are out making traffic stops. They may be issuing a citation, they may be issuing a warning, but they're out making a traffic stop. Once they turn their light bar on and they're talking to that driver, everyone driving by there is seeing an officer. And the more officers we have making traffic stops, the more our presence is known and gets high visibility, and we get the reputation of, if you're gonna go out and commit a crime, do you wanna go into a community where there's cops everywhere, or do you wanna go somewhere else? We try to get those people to go elsewhere. So when you look at our citation numbers for last year, we wrote over 16,641. That's probably highest in the, well, I know it's highest in the county other than Minneapolis. It might, well, close. But if you look at, when we look at our numbers as far as the tickets that we write, we find that 90% of our tickets are written to non-residents. So we'll still tag people who live in Edina, but most of them are non-residents, and our number one complaint by the citizens here in Edina is traffic. Traffic, traffic, traffic. People are going too fast. We need you in our neighborhood. We need you to slow them down. They're blowing the stop sign, you know, if someone's gonna get hurt. That's the number one complaint that I take as a chief. So that's our number one priority when we're out on the streets on their non-demand time is traffic enforcement. So by 90% of our citations being written to non-residents, to me that tells me our residents get it. They know that they want traffic enforcement and to obey the traffic laws. When you look at our speeding citations, I look at on the highways, that's 17 miles an hour over the limit. If you look at our speeding citations year to date for this year, that's the average citation that's written is 17 miles an hour over the limit. So we're talking 72 miles an hour? Yeah, 72 miles an hour in a 55. So that's the average. The highest we've had this year to date is 120 in a 55. That's cooking. So when we look at our local streets, our 30-mile-an-hour zones, 16 miles an hour is the average that we write. So that, add up all our tickets together and divide it by 16 miles an hour over limits, that's 46 and a 30. So for people who are saying, geez, I was going 2 miles over the limit, no. And our all-time high for local streets this year, anyone want to take a wild guess? No, I don't think it was that high. I gotta go as 60 and a 30. So take the speed limit times 2. So that's why we get the number one complaint is traffic, because when you're going 60 miles an hour in a 30, way too fast. Okay. Not necessarily. Depends who you are. What kind of car do you drive again, John? So as far as community relationships, you know, we partner with the school district by having the officers working in the schools. We also have junior police in the elementary schools in the spring of each year. We work close with our businesses with Business Watch, which is kind of like a neighborhood watch where businesses get together and kind of keep an eye on each other's business. And then our commercial crime unit that focuses in the commercial areas. Residential, we have the Neighbors Home Watch, and we're very active in Night to Unite. I think this last Night to Unite, we had over 65 parties registered with the city. So, and got an officer to most of them. Some of our outreach programs for volunteers, we have police reserves. Currently, we have about 20 police reserves serving our department. Our Police Explorer program is an excellent program for kids who are between age 14 and 21, where they can get involved and they actually train on officer training and different types of scenario training, traffic stops, domestic response, and then they have the ability to compete each year in a state competition. And our post usually brings home some good hardware on that, so that's kind of nice. Currently, we do partner with Eden Prairie, and between the two cities, we have 25 members. And we have our police chaplains. We have 4 police chaplains, and they are very helpful when officers are dispatched to difficult situations on death notifications. Very helpful to bring a chaplain with us and keep the situation more calm. So our Citizens Academy, we developed about 5 years ago. A guy named Brian Hubbard started that program. It's been a very good program for us. I don't know if anyone's gone through it yet or not. If you haven't, I recommend you do. It meets once a week for 10 weeks. Gives you a real good look inside the police department. Excuse me. Safety camp is for fourth graders. We do that in the summer months towards the end of July. And bicycle safety is taught to fifth grade students in the elementary schools in May of each year. When I look at the challenges of the police department, for this year, 2014, with the change in the para rules, the retirement rules, we had 7 officers retire. Normally we hire 1 officer, maybe 2 officers a year. This year it was 7 officers to hire, and that was a huge challenge for us. Each time we hire an officer to get them in the door, start their training, get them competent enough where we feel they can be in a squad car by themselves, is 3 months of training with different field training officers. So my training officers have been very stressed as they've been training all year. We have 1 officer left in training. Hopefully he'll finish up in November. But that has been a huge challenge. With the retirements has also led to more promotions, me being one of them. Jeff didn't retire, though. He just went to another agency. So that opened up another deputy chief opening where Jeff Elaski was promoted to deputy chief. We promoted 2 lieutenants this year and then 3 sergeants, along with this hiring 7 officers. So a lot of new faces and a lot of new positions, but it's a great opportunity for people to get experience and welcome new members into our family with the patrol officers. One of our other challenges that have been ongoing and will continue to be ongoing is technology. Technology, I'm talking about the equipment and the maintenance and updates and all that goes with IT stuff. Jennifer will attest to this. To get our squad cars up and running, everything in there is IT related. There's a computer, there's a barcode scanner, there's radio system, the video system that's in there. To try to get all that to talk to each other and work in the car is a challenge in itself. But then to get all the information that system is taking into the car, into our department wirelessly, is a really huge challenge. Our IT department is great at making it work, but it is continual maintenance, and trying to keep it up and running is difficult. Cybercrime is probably our 3rd biggest challenge. That one's been on the uprise with the identity theft, credit card fraud, bank fraud, crimes against children, or the internet crimes against children. That's going to continue to be an uprise in one of our challenges. And a lot of it is because sometimes your perpetrators are in a different state or a different country online committing these crimes or trying to fraud somebody and get money out of an Edina resident. But it's very difficult to follow up on when they're out of state or out of the country for a local police department. That's where that Minnesota Financial Crimes Task Force comes in very handy for us. But it's going to be a challenge not only for Edina, but for all law enforcement to continue to try to keep a lid on that one. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom, and we'll take questions after.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure when I get the opportunity to come and speak about the great things our fire department does. A little bit more about my bio. When I graduated from high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. The Air Force was probably one of the best things that happened to me. It really put me on the path where I wanted to go. Trained as a medic. I fell in love with public service and public safety. And then I knew that's what I wanted to do. Somewhere along that line, I got introduced into the fire service, and the opportunity to blend both paramedic and firefighting together was the golden ring for me. And I had that opportunity in 1993 to join the Edina Fire Department to do both of the things that I really enjoyed doing. So throughout that career, I've had a lot of great opportunities. I was promoted to battalion chief at Edina, where I was in charge of all the safety and training programs, and I got the opportunity to develop this special operations program, which still exists today. In fact, it's expanded to a very large program, and we are members of the Minnesota Task Force 1, which is a statewide response team to structural collapse and other very complex types of rescues. And this group actually goes out about 6 times a year, so actually the last couple months have been kind of busy for them. So that was a great opportunity for me to participate in. One of the things I saw in 2011 was an opportunity at Eden Prairie for me to expand my knowledge base in the fire service, and that was to get promoted to an assistant chief level and also take on fire inspections to learn that whole side of the business. When I left, there was no inkling that Chief Marty Shear was going to retire. We were about the same age, and for various reasons, and I think the para rule changes was one of the driving forces behind this decision to retire early, opened up that opportunity for me to come back to Edina. It was like coming back home, and it's been a great opportunity for me. So that's what I'm doing. As of February of this year, I'm in charge of the fire department, and along with that, the building department, which is kind of a unique setup. Not a lot of cities do that. The building department stands alone. But in Edina, as well as other cities, the building department is under the fire department. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And on the right there is some of my education. For a while there, I was a respiratory therapist at Hennepin County. A very interesting job, very busy work. And all right, so a little bit about your fire department. The fire department is what we consider a combination department. So we have a mix of full-time staff and volunteer firefighters, or what we call paid on call. So they get paid for pretty much everything they do. When they come in for training, they come in for a call, they get paid. But for the most part, the station is staffed 24/7 with full-time staff. Our full-time staff shifts are made up of 8 fire medics, captain, lieutenant, and then they're supported by the volunteer group. We operate out of 2 fire stations, the one on Tracy and Crosstown, our newest, and then the other stations next door to the YMCA on York Avenue. We provide all the traditional fire suppression type of activities. So we have 3 engines, a ladder truck, smaller suppression vehicles. But one of the things that's unique about Edina, and one of the things that drew me here, was that we provide our own ambulance service. And I don't know if you're familiar with the metropolitan area, but most of the advanced life support ambulances you see on the street are provided by third-party hospital-based systems. They cover a very large geographical area. Money is a big driving force behind their operations, and in Edina, that is all served by the fire department. It's intimate. The paramedics know the city, they know the community, and I think that's just a really great fit for this city. So we provide that service. Like I talked a little bit about the special operations team, that is integrated into the department. So it's not separate. All the firefighters and paramedics are members of that special ops team. We have the fire inspections division, a group of 4 individuals, again, firefighters, but their primary focus is on building construction, fire suppression, enforcing the fire code, that type of stuff. And then we have the building department. The building department is also within that fire department. I'll talk a little bit more about that department. So last year, for the fire side of the business, we did about 4,600 runs, which we've been ticking up just a little bit. And that, averages anywhere from 10 to 15 runs. There are days when it's, 5 runs, and other days it's 20 runs. So, but the biggest part of our business is our EMS, and that's pretty typical for most fire departments out there today that respond to any level of medical care or EMS calls. So biggest part of our business, we provide the ALS, which I think is a fantastic match. And then roughly almost 900 runs were fire calls. And we break that down, so we did 66 structure fires or non-structure fires. Fires in our business have been going down consistently since about the 1970s, when we really started to put a lot of emphasis on fire prevention. Most of our fires in the city of Edina are caused by cooking. And the second most common cause is, believe it or not, ashes. So people that empty out their fireplace or their barbecue grill into a paper bag or cardboard box, something like that, and then they put it in their garage or alongside their combustible house, it will start the house on fire. I've seen that many times. So just a little fire prevention there. And then we have a lot of other calls. We go on car crashes, hazardous material spills, just a wide variety of different calls. One of the things that I'm really proud about at Edina is our response times. These are really some of the best response times in the metropolitan area, if not the nation. When we can get a fire apparatus on the scene under, the national is you should be shooting for 6 to 8 minutes. And we're getting our vehicles there in just over 4 minutes. And that's because, partly we're covering 16 square miles with 2 stations. But sometimes those minutes, seconds count. EMS response, our ambulances are in scene under 4 minutes. Again, that's fantastic. In the metropolitan area, the standard is to have an ALS ambulance on scene in under 10 minutes, 90% of the time. So we're well within that range, and that in medical calls has a big impact on patient outcomes. So again, some things about our ambulance service, fire-based system. All the ambulance staff, or all the ambulances are staffed with 2 paramedics. In some parts of the metropolitan area, it's a medic EMT that staffs it, and we just find it a lot easier to have 2 medics, and we think that having that level of care in that ambulance at all times provides a better service to our community. Again, we're advanced life support. So what that means is we're doing some advanced stuff. We're doing, we're starting IVs, we're doing 12-lead EKGs, we're doing the invasive stuff that probably happens only in the emergency room. We do the full advanced cardiac care. So in cardiac arrest, a lot of the first line stuff that's going on in the emergency room is going on in the back of that ambulance or in the street. Some new pieces of equipment we're really proud about is what's called the Lucas 2 device. All of our ambulances carry this device. It's a device that does chest compressions. So one of the challenges for first responders is when we have to do chest compressions on somebody who's having a cardiac arrest is keeping a consistent rate and depth. And research has shown those 2 things are a major factor in the outcome of patients in cardiac arrest. So if I can get a machine that will always deliver the same rate and same depth, that's going to have a significant improvement. And research is showing that. We are seeing more what we call return of spontaneous circulation, ROSC, in the field today than we have ever seen in my almost 30 years as a paramedic. We're delivering more patients to the hospital with a pulse than we ever have in the past. One of the other things that I'm really proud about, it's probably been almost 10 years since Edina started using ultrasounds in the field. No other service in the country is doing pre-hospital ultrasounds. We were part of a study way back when, and the other agencies that were in that study, after it was over, they returned their equipment and did not continue it. We've continued to do that. In fact, we've advanced the techniques that our paramedics are doing as far as ultrasound. So that's a procedure that only happens in the hospital. And why do we feel that's important? If our medics can look inside the body and see something going on and make a decision on the best place for that patient to go based on what we're seeing, that has an improvement on patient outcome. So when we can see someone has a developing collapsed lung that an x-ray won't even show, we know that they're going to the trauma center. Or we can see bleeding around their liver or their spleen, or their heart's not functioning correctly. We can see all that through the ultrasound. So that's really impressive piece of equipment for us. We have medical control. Dr. Jeff Ho is our medical doctor. He's a Hennepin County emergency room physician. Our medics can consult with a physician at any time on any of their calls. So pretty elaborate system. The other area I'm pretty proud about is our fire inspections division. In addition to all the fire inspections that they do, we're really involved in fire prevention. Sometimes we're our own worst enemies because we do so well at this that our numbers are going down. Our run numbers are going down, but that's a good thing. So we participate in the safety camp along with the police department and Parks and Rec. We're involved in a senior safety camp. We spend a lot of time in the schools. This couple weeks ago was the Fire Prevention Week, and we are still finishing up some of the schools where we get in and we do a lot of the fire prevention activities with the kids. Night to Unite, and so very busy group. The building department. We have 12 full-time members in our building department, and these 12 people are extremely busy right now with all the construction activity going on. We have a chief building official, we have plan reviewers, We got field inspectors, we got permit technicians. We do all commercial and residential plan reviews and issue the permits, and also all new and remodel construction. This is an interesting slide. This kind of shows how busy these people are. Last year, we were projecting about $2.4 million in revenue for our building department, and we surpassed that. And we have already surpassed our goals for this year. Business is good, and we hope it continues that way. So all aspects of that building department are on the increase, and we're just trying to figure out how to match, try to look into the future and see where this thing is gonna either change or continue. So our challenges in the fire service, EMS, the Affordable Care Act, and how that's gonna affect our ambulance service, fire and life safety initiatives, increasing expectations, increasing training for our people, and then always increasing our funds in an environment that is fiscally stewardship. Building, forecasting that future, I mentioned that, matching our staff with the demands of the workload, and then seeking those efficiencies wherever we can in the way we do our business. And we're about ready to implement electronic plan review, which is going to be huge as it relates to efficiency within multiple departments. I think that's it. All right, thank you.
We have time for a couple questions. Mary?
What determines if the dogs get sent out?
Who wants?
Is that for Tom? What determines if we're going to deploy our canine unit? Basically, it's the level of crime that was committed, and I guess part of it is where's the suspect? Is it somebody that officers are chasing, or is it someone that we have a perimeter set up on? A lot of times, if we just set up a perimeter and we think the suspect is inside the perimeter, we'll bring the dog out, but we'll keep him on lead. So that way he's with the handler and he's kind of just following the track. We'll follow that track for as long as we can. Most of the time it will go into the middle of a street and then the track's gone, meaning they got picked up by a car. But so we'll do a lot of tracking for almost any level of crime. For us to actually release the dog after somebody who is fleeing the police and is not obeying the verbal commands to stop, normally it's going to be a felony level offense. So it's not going to be a curfew violator or an underage drinking deal, not that kind of stuff. Normally it's going to be a felony level offense. All right?
Hey. That should have been a question I should have asked, but thank you, Mary. Tom and Dave, thank you very much for joining us today. It was interesting to hear both of you. It's also good to hear that you are leading our community and keeping us safe, both in response time for health issues as well as the speed traps. And some of us appreciate that. Rotary International is a group of 1.2 million professional leaders, business leaders, and we have come together to make our communities better, just as you two are doing. This year we are supporting an organization called VEEP, which Jeff mentioned before. We're going to be visiting them next week. Many people know them as the food shelf for the area, but they do many other things within social services. In honor of your presentation today, we are giving a donation to VEEP in your name. So thank you.
Remember, next week we're at Veep. We're not here. So don't show up here. You can show up and have lunch, I guess, at the Country Club, but we'll be over at Veep at 12:15. Our next meeting here at the Country Club is on October 30th. And again, that'll be our guest day. And our program will be Amy Nelson, who's the founder of Accurate Home Care, a business she started in her house and now does $100 million in sales. Please bring a guest. I'll close with a quote from the playwright George Bernard Shaw, who once wrote, "Imagination is the beginning of creation. You imagine what you desire, you will what you imagine, and at last you create what you will." There's no shortage in this world of people able to imagine a better future. But in Edina Rotary, we do not just imagine that future. We will it, and we work to create it. And our gala fundraiser on Saturday night was a great example of that. Have a great week, and remember to light up Rotary. Meeting adjourned.